Friends, in one of my previous videos, I demonstrated how actually we teach prose pieces in higher sections. But I explained methodology only and didn't go through the content of one particular text. But here in this video, I will help students to complete one lesson that is prescribed in class 10 syllabus, Long Walk to Freedom. So, firstly, I will ask them to open the book at specific page number. Then, name of title on marker board. Students will hold pencil to note down the word meaning of difficult words. And in the beginning, before I start the lesson, I will test their prerequisite knowledge, their previous acquaintance, and we will talk something related to text. So here we begin. Students, this is not fascinating account story. This lesson is in the form of extract taken from Nelson Mandela's autobiography, and definitely it will carry high thought. And it is the struggle of Nelson Mandela against the policy of apartheid, year-long struggle, and finally he succeeded, and he was elected as president of South Africa. So I want to ask you all, what do you know about Nelson Mandela? Then answer. I may add something more to that uh, viewpoint, and we may discuss about democracy, because this lesson is all about democracy, establishment of democracy in South Africa. Then we may discuss role of Gandhiji in South Africa's movement liberation, how actually was the turning point of Gandhiji's life when he was thrown out of compartment in South Africa. We can also discuss about the important democracies in world, how actually they are functioning. And finally, and we are not supposed to discuss too many things. Out of these all, we can discuss certain issues. And when I start the text, students, uh, you know that South Africa was ruled and governed by the white skinned people when they defeated the Aborigines in the Anglo Boer War. So, after 80 years, near about 80 or 90 years of racism, the supremacy of white skinned people, finally democracy was established. South Africa was liberated. And for the convenience of studying, we can highlight the four parts of this lesson, because this is not fascinating account of story. You will have to concentrate more. So I will help you to know the four things, four main points prescribed in the not prescribed, mentioned in the text. The first one is Independence Day celebration. Second is Nelson Mandela's homage and tribute to South African leader and the people. The third one is the obligation and duties in somebody's life, that he has discussed in detail. And then the fourth one, when he compares his life, the early childhood, the life as a student, and then life as a freedom fighter. And then the lesson will come to the end. So you will see that the four main things are there in the text that we have to cover one by one. Although no proper division is not made in the text, but we will go through the one part of the text. So students will start the reading. They will complete the Independence Day celebration, which is the first part. Then I will simplify the language. I will help them to understand what actually the main points of that part are. So students, we reached to the end of Independence Day celebration. And after year-long struggle, finally country was liberated. So there was joy, jubilation, and enthusiasm in whole of South Africa. And whenever a country is liberated, a system of equality and justice starts, then all the existing leaders in every part of world comes to support, because this is the system which gives opportunity fair and square to everybody. So people from every part came to witness that grand celebration, because it was the first ever grand celebration in South Africa after year-long policy of apartheid. That is why it is written in the text that the rainbow gathering of people. What is rainbow gathering? Rainbow gathering means people and the leaders, not people actually, the leaders, the distinguished guests who were from every part of globe, and naturally their appearance, their color, their personality was different. So it is called rainbow gathering. The Independence Day celebration took place in a theater, in a amphitheater, the open stadium in Pretoria. Then we will focus mainly what actually he said in his thoughtful speech. Nelson Mandela pledged himself to work for the welfare of South African people, and people in general, not the black people only. He said that year-long system has given profound hurt. The system of death, deprivation, injustice, discrimination, racism, all the negative things are gone. Now Nelson Mandela hopes that a new society will be born, which will establish peace, justice, equality, and progress of country, which will ensure progress of South Africa. And he thanks all the distinguished guests. And after that, we see in that part that military showed their loyalty, faith in the democratic setup. Here we will discuss again with the student. Why is it essential for military or for democracy to get support from military? And if not, then what happens? If students fail, then we will help them to know that for proper functioning of democracy, support of military is essential. Only then it will run smoothly. And I will cite an example what happened in Pakistan, or what happens in Pakistan at frequent interval. Pakistan somehow established democracy, but at times the power was seized by military. Military was not 100% loyal to the ruling government, and that's why democracy remains always at stake. So students will come to know it is not the elected leaders, the democratic setup. For smooth running of democracy, support of military leader, military or the army is absolutely essential. And also it is said in that paragraph that the very same military personnel, the major, colonel, the highest authorities saluted South African leader Nelson Mandela. So students will come to know the power of democracy. A very simple man who used to be in the jail, who was sent to the jail by the same authorities, now they are saluting. This is the power of democracy, and students will realize how actually the situation turns. And this is definitely better when a simple man can occupy the highest position in the democracy, and opportunities are free and fair to everybody. So Independence Day celebration comes to the end. Now second part, students will start, they will complete, they will note down the vocabulary as well. Then the second part is Nelson Mandela's tribute, homage to the leaders and the people. See, when he occupied the highest post, then there was overwhelming sense of gratitude to the leaders. Because Nelson Mandela realizes, he has written, because he has given the detail, that I got overwhelmed by the sense of his history, the achievement. And I realized that I am not the only person who is responsible for freedom. I am the sum total. I, as a president, is sum total of their effort. They have helped me to fetch this highest post. and they have sacrificed their life. And Nelson Mandela is very much emotional, pained to think that some of the leaders are gone and they will not be able to see what their sacrifices has wrought, liberated the country. And he mentions the name of all the leaders, and he pays his uh, tribute, homage in a respectful way. And he also says that leaders like Gandhi, leaders like Thabo Mbeki will never be seen. Why? Because the kind of oppression prevails in the country, the leaders of same energy are born. Now the system of racism is gone, so we need some more great leaders. But those leaders are system outcome of this system, and I hope that there will be many more leaders to lead South Africa. Then he pays homage to the people of South Africa, the young women, children, old aged people who showed extraordinary courage, resilience against the system. They sacrificed their life. They remained in twilight of existence, but their sacrifices, their courage defies imagination. And he says that they are more valuable than the diamonds found in South Africa. So this second part is all about the tribute and homage to the South African people and leaders. Now we switch over to third part. Students will complete the reading. This third part is not in extra detail. Actually, it is the one of the means the important point. He has mentioned two obligations. It is his philosophy. And before that, students will come to know the definition of courage in Nelson Mandela's own viewpoint. He says, generally we say that a person who is courageous has no fear. He says no, he has fear, but with his own effort, with his own means bravery, or whatever you can say, with his, not with effort actually, when he wins the fear, then he is courageous. So his definition in a sense is when courage is the triumph over fear. That is his own philosophy. Courage is not lack of fear. We have the fear, but we overcome the fear, then we are courageous. That is what he wants to say. So he says that there are two obligations in somebody's life. The primary obligation towards family, friend, relative, those who are with us. And the second obligation is to the entire country and community. Nelson Mandela gives his own experience that in the normal course of life, a person can fulfill both the obligations, obligation to family and the country. But country was in chain. His freedom was curtailed. He could never fulfill his first obligation towards family and son and daughters. So he was put in the jail. He could fulfill his second obligation, but he was not able to earn money and support his family. So he regrets for not having taken proper care of his family. And he says that every time we started to revolt against the system, we were put in the jail. We spent our most of life in secrecy as a rebellion. That is what he says, a very brief account, not in detail. In a brief manner, he explains the philosophy that we have got the two obligations, and the first obligation was not fulfilled by him. Then comes the most important part, the comparison of life at the early stage and as a university student. He says that while I was, so students will go to the end of the chapter, and he makes comparison with his initial days and college days. So in the village, while I was a small child, he studied up to school. He was free. He was described in detail that he had no idea actually that South Africa is not free, and there was no hunger to be free. He was free in every respect. He was free to roam around the village, to do farming, to help his parents, and he was free to do things of his own wish. But when he went to Johannesburg and started studying in college, there he realized that his boyhood freedom was an illusion, where he came to know what actually was the fate of the black skinned people in South Africa. And then he decided that if my basic and honorable freedom are seized, if my freedom is curtailed, if I am not allowed to marry and keep family in a city, if I am not allowed to print something in the news, to publish something in the newspaper, if I am not allowed to work and earn money in the city, if I am not allowed, the basic freedoms are not for the black skinned people. So the life is meaningless. And at that point, he realized that I should do something to liberate my country. But he admits, in the beginning, he was a very shy person, a family loving person. He was not a man of dynamic energy. But he decided to join African National Congress. And he says that while I joined, I had no idea that I will emerge as a leader. I just became a member of that party. And the very same personality, the simple personality, who had not extra amount of courage and wisdom, he admits that I was a very ordinary person. But the very idea to liberate the country, the very idea to lead his people changed, and he was filled with unprecedented enthusiasm. And he was a man of, he emerged a man of high dimension, high personality, magnetic personality, dynamic energy. So his year-long struggle helped him to emerge as a great leader, not only in South Africa, on the global level. And actually, I'm not having the text, it is in my memory. The lesson has got four main part. So he also says that individual freedom is meaningless. I'm not free if all my brethren in South Africa are in chain. So my freedom is justified only if all the people, citizens in South Africa, are free. And after having spent 27 years in jail, finally, South African people, their cumulative effort, liberated country. And in the end of the chapter, Nelson Mandela says that generally we say that the oppressor is at fault because he oppressed, exploited poor people. Nelson Mandela says, this is not my philosophy. All the while, if we put cross fingers to the oppressor, it will not be fair. Because you were weak, you were humble, you were timid, you had no courage to fight against the system. And that is why they overpowered you. And that is what it happened 90 years back in Anglo-Boer War. White-skinned people were united and they defeated South African people. So he says that if somebody slaps you, the person is at fault, no doubt, but you also are guilty. Why you are so weak that you let him slap you? So that is his philosophy. So lastly he says, oppressor and the person oppressed both are culprits of humanity. If they both will have courage, same amount of enthusiasm, same amount of energy, then the system will prevail, which will be based on equality. So he urged South African people that you all be united, stand united, fight for justice, establish a system which will ensure opportunities to all. So while we will go through the lesson, we will try our best to realize, to help students realize that the best form of governance is democracy. The autocracy, the monarchy, these were farce and baseless. People of those age were compelled because they had no choice. Their intellectual level, the progress, the technology was not there. And that is why if democracy prevails everywhere, it is good. Because here, the very ordinary man can reach to the highest post, like Abdul Kalam. He was son of a fisherman, and then he reached to the highest position. So this is the power of democracy. And we can discuss the various form, like it is in China, the communist. So we can talk lot about the ways of governance, the functioning of democracy. India being the largest democracy has paved way, has ensured justice, and not justice, peace in the entire world. Because India was the leader of non-aligned movement during the Cold War between America and Russia. So it was the power of democracy. And I finished the lesson. After that, possible questions will be discussed, definitely. And 4 main questions are there. Independence Day celebration, why it is essential to have support from military, first question. Second, how did Mandela pay his reverence, tribute, homage to the people responsible for freedom? Then third question, what are the twin obligations? Which obligation could Mandela not fulfill? The fourth question, how did Mandela realize that his boyhood freedom was illusion? How Mandela's personality was changed totally and emerged as a global leader? These are the possible questions. And now I'm talking informally. I like this lesson very much. And that is why each and every line is in my memory. I like lessons like this, the extract from autobiography. Because all the while we cannot enjoy the Harry Potter lesson, the fiction, because we are in higher section. We need high values, high thoughts to animate our life. And there is one chapter in class 9, extract from Abdul Kalam's autobiography, Wings of Fire. So I will quote the last line of that chapter. I will try to share you, because that animates me. That is inspiration. In whole of my life, I have never got better lines than those ones. These lines are said by Abdul Kalam's father, austere father, not highly educated. He wanted to go pursue higher education away from Rameswaram, perhaps in Madras. So his mother said, there is no use going to the distant place for pursuing education. You better assist your father in fishing. What did his father say? I will firstly say in Hindi. उनके कम पढ़े लिखे पिता ने कहा, तुम्हारे संतान your children are not your children. कहा तुम्हारे संतान नहीं है, तुम्हारे संतान जीवन की जिजीविषा की संतान है. उनका जन्म तुमसे हुआ, तुम्हारे लिए नहीं. उन्हें उड़ने दो, वो जहां जाना चाहते हैं. एक कम पढ़ा लिखा आदमी इतना अच्छा बोल रहा है. अब ये अंग्रेजी में कैसे है? योर चिल्ड्रन आर नॉट योर चिल्ड्रन. उसकी मां को समझा रहे हैं, योर चिल्ड्रन आर नॉट योर चिल्ड्रन. They are the children of life's longing for itself. Let them fly wherever they want, because they have their own thought. शायद मैं कुछ मिस कर रहा हूं. तो ये जो कोट है, एक कम पढ़ा लिखा पिता कह रहा है, उड़ने दो उन्हें, वो जो उड़ान भरना चाहते हैं. और ये उड़ते उड़ते साधारण सा अब्दुल कलाम राष्ट्रपति बन गया. तो ऐसे कोट्स हमें चाहिए, ऐसे लेसन्स हमें चाहिए, इंस्पायरिंग लेसन. और मुझे याद है कि जब मैं छोटा बच्चा था तो इंस्पायरिंग लेसन थे. द ग्रेट फिलोसोफर ऑफ मीन्स हमारे हिंदी टेक्स्ट में थे, मैं इंग्लिश में ट्रांसलेट कर रहा था. ये सुकरात, महान दार्शनिक सुकरात, द ग्रेट फिलोसोफर सॉक्रेटिस, इब्राहिम गार्दी, मुस्लिम सोल्जर हु वाज डिवोटेड इंटायरली टू मदरलैंड इंडिया. तो एक मुसलमान की देशभक्ति, इस प्रकार के कई एक लेसन्स थे, हमें बड़ी ही प्रेरित करते थे. और एक शिक्षक के रूप में मैं महसूस करता हूँ कि एक लेसन विच कैरीज हाई थॉट, ये जरूर होना चाहिए टेक्स्ट बुक में, हिंदी में, इंग्लिश में. और इससे बच्चे का बहुत प्रभाव पड़ता है, बिकॉज उनकी जो ये है पर्सनालिटी है, इसी समय बनती है. और इस समय अगर हम सेलिब्रिटी के रूप में कुछ ऐसे सेलिब्रिटी को लेसन में डालेंगे जैसा कि सीबीएसई कर रहा है, जिनके जीवन में सफलता है, महानता नहीं है, ऐसे बहुत सारे लोग हैं, और डाला जा रहा है, ये बहुत ही गलत है। जब तक किसी ने देश के लिए, समाज के लिए, मानवता के लिए, विश्व समुदाय के लिए अगर कोई भला काम नहीं किया तो वो महान हो ही नहीं सकता। वो एक सफल एंटरप्रेनर होगा। एंटरप्रेनर, जो वर्ड आज बहुत प्रिवेल हो रहा है, सक्सेसफुल एंटरप्रेनर, ये अमेरिका का वर्ड है, बड़ी ज़्यादा यूज होता है, तो उससे कोई फायदा नहीं। हालांकि उसकी भी प्रेरणा है कि बड़ा भारी भी उद्योगपति बन गया, लेकिन मेरा कहना है कि ऐसे महान, जैसे कि चीन में सन यात सेन, हमारे इंडिया में गांधी, हमारे महर्षि अरविंदो, हमारे कलाम, हमारे मार्टिन लूथर किंग, नेल्सन मंडेला, इनकी जो स्ट्रगल है, इनकी जो थॉट्स है, सुकरात, इनको बच्चों को शुरू में पढ़ाना चाहिए। हमारा विश्वास है रामायण और महाभारत की कहानियां बच्चों को बनाती है, निश्चित रूप से वो हमें धार्मिक ज्ञान और संस्कार देती है, हमें आदर्श सिखाती है, पर हमें कंटेम्प्रेरी वर्ल्ड में देखना है कि किन वैल्यूज की जरूरत है, तो इन महान चरित्रों से सीखिए। मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है अगर मैं ऐसा लेसन पढ़ाता हूं। आई वेट माई सेल्फ डेस्परेटली ईगरली इफ आई कम अक्रॉस सच लेसन्स। आज मिला है मजेदार लेसन। चलिए, ये लेसन समाप्त हो गया, घंटी बज गई, बच्चे निकल गए, गेम पीरियड है, टिफिन है, वो एंजॉय कर रहे हैं, हम लोग अपने स्टाफ रूम में। यही हमारी कहानी है।